Okay, then they're gonna skip. Hello? I think I'm gonna do this for like, maybe 15 minutes. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
How old are you? Uh, Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm not bad.
That was a child.
You don't have to say.
Ooh, that was a child. Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?
Are you a cowboy?
No, I am very much not a cowboy.
Are you drunk?
No, why would I be drunk?
You sound like you're drunk.
Well, I'm tired. I woke up a couple hours ago.
Okay, understandable.
What are your hobbies?
Oh, reading books, playing any kind of sport, watching movies. I don't know. What about you?
I'm streaming on YouTube right now. And,
Oh. Hi.
no, I don't have anyone in the live yet. Last night when I was streaming, I had like 60 people on. I had a lot of engagement. It was really cool. Oh, I have one person right now.
Cool. Progress. See?
Yeah,
Progress.
yeah, progress. What's your dream job?
Oh,
Oh,
well, my dream was to go into surgery, but that's not gonna come true, so maybe dentistry?
why can't you become a doctor?
My grades were not enough for the college this year.
Well, why not try and get your grades up?
I finished 12th grade, like, I can't do anything about it now.
Can't you go to college?
No.
Okay, well, have a great day. Hi, how are you?
Bro, do you know the movie The Bad, the Good, and the Ugly?
Yeah,
You are the ugly.
and that's a really good one. Telling you. Oh,
Bro's Amish.
I mean, I'm very much not Amish, but
What's Amish? What's Amish?
uh,
Yo.
oh, actual children. Oh.
Likes for.
Hi, how are you? Some people.
They don't like. Hi.
Hi, how are you? Oh, two people now.
No, actually five. Five?
No, I have two people on my live stream.
Oh, okay. I like your hat.
Thank you. What do you like to do? What are your hobbies?
What do I do? Drawing. You do drawing? Yeah, I do.
How old are you? Oh, it's a good thing they skipped. They didn't sound very old. So I was gonna say, no. So many. Hi, how are you?
I'm do the Irish dance.
What do
you
you?
look like a pilgrim. Do an Irish dance.
I don't know any Irish dances.
Are you kidding?
I'm not I mean, I am Irish, but I wouldn't consider myself.
Smell it.
You look like a pilgrim. In a nice way, not like
one
that.
now. I know. I don't care.
Well, maybe don't flirt with me because I don't know how old you are.
I'm 18. How old are you?
I'm 24.
That's okay.
So
I'm
what?
21.
Well, I have a girlfriend. So no thanks. What are your hobbies? Ugh. Hi. Oh, no. Oh.
Oh.
Hi, how are you? Three people now. 3 people.
What are you gonna do for us?
Nothing. What do you like to do? What are your hobbies?
I don't know. I feel like you've got really hairy tits.
How old are you?
15.
Yeah, that makes sense. 15 makes sense. Hi, how are you?
I love her beard. And you're not.
Thank you. What do you like to do? What are your hobbies?
I don't really have any. I just read a lot.
What do you like to read?
Sorry?
What do you like to read? 4 people now.
I read stories.
Stories about what?
Like, I don't know. Like kid stories, you know? Young adult books.
Okay. What's your favorite book then?
My favorite book. Hunting Adeline by H.G. Clarkson.
I've never heard of that. Alright.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. What's your dream job?
My dream job. I want to become a pilot or a flight attendant.
Ooh, why do you want to do that?
I don't know. I want to see the sunrise, but it's like rising, you know, from the top.
That's really cool. Well, have a great day.
You too. You
Alright.
cowboy.
6. Okay. You know what? We're gonna go to an actual, like the actual thing we were doing last night, because now I got a good amount of people. I feel like we got a good amount of people. We were just waffling. We're just messing around there for a little bit. Okay.
Enlisted is the free, brand new online World War II shooter. Command a squad of soldiers and participate in legendary battles of the Second World War.
Leave a comment,
Right now,
say hi, do all that good
Normandy,
stuff.
Battle of Moscow, and the battle.
Or if you have anything you want me to react to, or react to it.
Nigger.
What the fuck is that? Oh, Migo's still on. Please don't say those words on my live stream.
Fantasize that.
Leave site. Okay. Well, I hope that doesn't ruin my channel. Anyway, let's continue.
In 2018, showing he's grown into a young man, as well as the fact that he also gawks at this conker. We'll find out what it is later on, but for now, he's got a nice shiny conker, and he started up his own collection, presumably, so that's admirable. What it does is establish Atreus as having a life outside of his father's shadow, and that's important for what the game attempts to do down the line. We also get to see Freya now continues to hunt them, something lingering from 2018. Her anger remains even 3 years later, which is important to characterize her without needing to state too much openly, and the death of Fenrir allows us to see Atreus' compassion is still present. He never let it go, an important trait which comes into play at the end of the storyline. On top of all of these things running parallel and playing into one another to fuel discontent and character drama, it allows us to organically explore Atreus' power and use the motif of the bear in the beginning to start to build more of a conflict between Atreus and Kratos, which is important in tearing them apart later on. Odin and Thor also get center stage. We get a marvelous set-piece battle with the God of Thunder, which allows us to indulge in Kratos' core gameplay without losing the narrative tension in doing so. The combat and aggression fuels the story beats during the fight, and it all works together to deliver something impressive. Odin's manipulation is also in play, allowing for subtle characterization of who he is, while at the same time pushing our characters to discover what Atreus might have been doing on his own.
He just literally describing the game at this point. I can't comment on
Turns
any
out
of
his
this.
Conquer collection spans farther than we could have realised, and after reluctance from Kratos, it leads us once again to see what Atreus has found. All of these elements together, all of them are fantastic. When dealing with less plot, less characters, less complicating factors, the story shines, the narrative shines, and the writing shines. This is good, this is brilliant, and this is exactly why the story loses control of itself towards the end of the second hour. Once you pile on Sindri and Brock, Tyr being alive, the conflict with Freya needing to be resolved, playable Atreus, Ironwood, the Alfheim conflict, Atreus' distrust leading her way to Asgard, the Vanaheim rebellion, the parallel to Thor with his drinking problem and the relationship with his daughter, the mask plotline, Freya's odd and quick redemption / self-discovery, and forgiveness.
How's it odd? How's it odd? She come to realize that what she's fighting, that she trying to kill Kratos, right? She realized that the mission of trying to kill Kratos can't make any sense anymore, because Kratos helped her, get her wings back, get her warrior spirit back, and all she was doing, she was working with Kratos because she was trying to get back that so she could kill Kratos, but in getting all that stuff back, there was no need to kill Kratos anymore. Now you can go after the actual threat.
Giving of Kratos, and so many other things, you very, very quickly lose sight of the smaller things, the subtleties, the character depth, and the significance to the plot that tears away a decently good game from...
I disagree. You have plenty of character moments. Plenty. Like, you go on a mission with Brock to get the spear, and that's where Brock finds out he died. Again, you'll go on the side mission. You don't have to do it. It's a side mission with Freya to visit the place where Odin and Freya got married. And Atreus and Kratos have a father-son bonding time, plenty of time throughout the game. And Atreus and Sindri do. Well, you actually find out while you're playing as Atreus that you find out that Brock even died when you play as Atreus and you're with Sindri. And you're going to find Freya. Oh, yeah, and Atreus and Freya have a character moment where Freya even discovers that, the giants are dead. And, Odin isn't worried about Ragnarok anymore. And Atreus has a bigger role in Ragnarok to begin with.
From a masterpiece, because you are struggling to keep so many plates spinning, 2 games worth of plates spinning on just one single game that some of them have to be dropped. I don't know what that was. I don't know what that metaphor was. Some plot points have to be rushed and the game suffers for it. It feels like every few hours the focus of the game shifts to be something else entirely, almost as if God of War 2018 was a tight feature film and Ragnarok is a TV show. Maybe a TV show premiering specifically on Disney Plus.
Can you qualify this?
I'm not saying anything. Maybe that's a similarity. It's trying to hold your attention from episode to episode while
Yeah.
vaguely carrying a
Yes,
through
I
line
am.
that is sort of prevalent, but not really until the end of the final episode. And I did just steal that idea from one of my mods on my girlfriend's Discord server. So, thanks, Flash. By doing this, everything just starts to feel wrong. It's a story not at all built for the framework of 2018, but it's trying to tell its story that way anyway. It's a story that spans tons of realms, tons of focuses, and tons of characters, but also is forced to retain a single camera shot, and so has to spend a while meandering from thing to thing, and then rush through each thing once you're there. A story of this nature needed to be built with inside an entirely different framework than the one they were working with, or you needed to build a story suited to the framework you were stuck with using. Instead, they didn't, and it results in incongruity. And of course, why does it have so many focuses? Well, it brings us back around to the original point of this whole part of the video, because this is 2 games in 1 game. They had to cram everything
Again, qualify this. I would like you to qualify it.
They had to make it work, but they were trying to make it work within the framework of what 2018 established as the core principles of this era's storytelling. And it just ends up feeling wrong and out of place. They take stuff from the middle entry and the stuff from the final entry and try to make it all make sense and get through it in time. They needed all of the main characters in certain positions by the start of Ragnarok, the event, not the game, but where with 2 more games they could have had a whole middle entry geared towards character development and a 3rd entry to
There is plenty of character development throughout the game, like I said before.
establish, build, and execute Ragnarok. They have to do both in one single game, and so you have arcs rushed and characters inexplicably do things because they have to be in a certain position by the start of Ragnarok, otherwise the ending doesn't work. Which is why the ending works, because our characters are rushed into positions they need to be in. It's also why the opening 2 hours work, because it's building from 2018. It's everything after the first 2 hours up to probably the final 2 hours that feels like a disjointed mess. I don't envy this position. Imagine being given A New Hope and being told, right, cram Empire and Jedi into one film.
Can you qualify this at all? Tell me why you think this. Just don't tell me it and continue to tell me the same thing.
It would be a disaster, because key to a trilogy is the opening story, establishing world, character, and taking our heroes on a journey. The middle part is usually all character focused, studying who our characters are after their initial arc, how they deal with particular hardships, and how that forms them into the people they will be to confront the final challenge in the 3rd entry.
Movies and video games are very different. You have a lot more time to play with.
Which has them face off against the biggest
Like 2 hours, maybe even 4 hours in some movies, compared to 20 hours.
threat. Less character drama, more story stakes, which works to conclude all of the narrative work done thus far. I use the example of Star Wars because it's universally well known, but you can apply this formula to almost all successful trilogies, and you can really start to see where I'm coming from. The story of God of War was not conceived as a duology, it was conceived as a trilogy, and that immediately puts the game on the back foot for its entirety. But what
Why?
that then means goes deeper, because you're now building a story not suited to the framework it's being built within, which causes many more problems than you'd think.
Give me examples.
Ragnarok tries to mimic 2018 in its gameplay, level design, even camera work, but fails to recognize those elements were in 2018 because they all work together to tell that story. The gameplay, the level design, the camera work, everything was the way that it was in God of War 2018 because it helped to convey tone and narrative.
Am I missing something? I feel like, am I the, because I feel like he not qualifying any of this, but how many likes does this video have? 6,000 likes. Future people. Tell me if I'm getting any of this wrong. Is it qualifying this? And I'm just not getting it? Or am I the wrong one?
In interactive ways. In Ragnarok, the single camera shot doesn't even make sense for the story being...
This is a high... he put this on screen. This is a high-octane battlefield. Snappy cuts would improve the tone they're trying to convey here. I disagree, because in the tone in the scene he's showing, it's on the scene where they're approaching the laser shooting things. That's a technical term. And there's civilians operating them, and it's going for a sad tone, and I don't know how, and you get to see all the characters' reactions. So I don't know how snappy cuts would improve that, because you already get to see the most important reactions with the camera that they use.
Being told. It's simply there because it was in 2018. Exploration was included in the first game because it acted as an interactive way to simulate the experience of Atreus pulling Kratos from the beaten path to develop a bond and grow character. It's in Ragnarok because, well, we have to have side quests in our game now, don't we? The only way
Well, what's wrong with side quests?
I can see Ragnarok using design to convey narrative is through Atreus' gameplay. It creates a unique fish-out-of-water experience for the player, something that deeply connects to the story being told with Atreus. And it's no surprise these sections have the most narrative cohesion, because they aren't hampered by needing to push you off to do side quests or explore a large open space full of items and boss fights, masquerading as God of War 2018 2.0. The gameplay structuring and level design all work together during the Atreus portions to build a sense of narrative cohesion. And while this is their biggest strength when it comes to pairing design philosophy to the story being told, it comes at a cost, forcing the player to play as Atreus. The game attempting to remedy needing to cram two games into one is maybe its biggest downfall, and not in the way you'd probably think. This game is split into halves. Well, not halves. I guess it's more like this on a pie chart, 70-30. 70 being Kratos, 30 being Atreus. It does this to try and compartmentalize the development, and let me explain what I'm saying. By having two stories playing out essentially simultaneously, you're basically getting your two games at once. It allows for Kratos' story to take place.
Oh, I think I understand him. So he thinks that they just made two games one, and that first game would be about Atreus, and the second game would be about Kratos. But the Atreus and Kratos sections are linked, though. Atreus go to Asgard, and Kratos does something to try and get him back. That's the dynamic. So I don't know how you would do that if you have two separate games. You'd have to change the whole story around.
Place in one instance and Atreus is in another. Two characters having two arcs at once, separately.
Yeah, but each arc is linked, because one character... I'm getting a little bit angry. Because one character, like Atreus, go to Asgard, right? And then Kratos says, hey, I don't like this, let's go visit the Fates, or the Norns, and figure out how I can get Atreus back. You couldn't do that, or you would have to change it into a whole different game at that point. Because each action that the other character takes, it's linked to the other one.
The issue is, you don't have the length of a game for each one, and you end up with half the time, and so many additional characters, themes, and focuses start to get lost. Let's look at Atreus, who I believe is the main character of this game, or at least the main character in the eyes of the writing team.
I disagree entirely. Kratos makes all the decisions for everybody. He decides to go to Elfheim. He decides he becomes the general at Ragnarok. He goes with Freya and decides not to kill her. You know, he'd been deciding for Fimbulwinter 3 years, right? Let's just say 3 years for argument's sake. He decided not to kill Freya over the 3 years. even during Ragnarok, he changed the battle plans to I'm having a little trouble remembering, to protect the civilians. His agency overrides everyone else's, and that includes Atreus. He has a lot more agency than Atreus, just blatantly.
Wrong. Just consider that you spend more of this time riding a yak than you do fighting in Ragnarok. That's not a joke. You do actually do that. This game should be called the God of War.
And that's a bad thing? Ragnarok isn't... The actual Ragnarok event isn't supposed to be the whole game. That's just the battle for Asgard.
Or Yaknarok. I'm sorry. Now, is it wrong for Atreus to be the main character of a God of War game? No, I don't think it is. However, this game does not...
No, of course it's not. If Atreus was a main character of a God of War game, I don't think it would be bad. It's all about execution.
To it. It feels afraid to do what it actually wants to do, which is sideline Kratos. And so, what it actually does is sideline Atreus, but also give him all of the core story beats to work through, and so the game ultimately sidelines the main fucking story.
In what way? Again, Kratos makes all the big decisions.
Atreus is the one meeting with Odin. Atreus is the one interacting with the Norse pantheon, with characters like Thrud, Thor, Sif, Heimdall, and this guy. Atreus is the one learning of prophecy. Atreus is the one making the key decisions that affect the Norse mythology. Atreus is...
Yeah, but all that, it decided what they do by Kratos. He's just wrong.
Character moving the story along. He's proactive, like a protagonist should be. That's just the way that he's written. But he's relegated to linear sections that take up 30% of the game. Now, like I said, I'm not someone who hates on concepts. Sure, sidelining Kratos sounds pretty dumb, but either you commit to it and tell that story the way that it deserves to be told, or you don't, and you do a different story. This game is trying to have its cake and eat it too, and as much as I love cake, this is bad. I don't know what I was trying to say there about cake. The point that I'm trying to make is that Atreus gets the spotlight frequently and for long stretches. The writers clearly see him as the primary character with the way that he's utilised by the story itself as the most proactive character. Now,
he is not the most proactive character. Kratos is the most proactive character. Examples I said before.
While I was working on this video, I actually got proof of this concept, which I'm just sort of squashing and inserting into this part of the videos, which I think just adds a little bit more context to the...
I'm sorry, I had to sneeze there.
To the concept that I'm talking about. Recently, MinMax interviewed two of the writers on God of War Ragnarok, Matt Sophos and Richard Gorbert. In this interview, they talk about one of the very first and original drafts of this game's script.
The earliest draft of an outline that we had come up with that we took to Eric, we had Kratos died in the Thor fight at the very beginning of the game.
Oh, wow.
And so, he was going to die, and then it wasn't a permanent death. What was going to happen, and I don't care, we can tell this because it doesn't happen anymore. So this is all fan fiction at this point now. He would get pulled out of hell, essentially, by Atreus, but it's now been like 20 years have passed.
Oh, my
God. It was going to be a big
God.
time jump type thing. So that was a version of it, and it didn't ultimately feel right. Eric was like, I don't want to do that.
Now granted, they didn't linger on this idea for long, but I do believe that the remnants of this idea and the story they wanted to tell with Atreus, which was very clearly something they wanted to touch upon by killing off Kratos in this original script.
This was done early in the production and clearly a hard turn away from. I don't even know where if I wasn't told that, I wouldn't get any of that from the game.
Still shows in the final script of the game, because they didn't want to scrap the story they wanted to tell with Atreus, but in order to bring back in Kratos, you kind of had to, but they don't do.
What? Again, Kratos had most of the agency in the game? You're just, what?
Do that. They keep both, and so you end up with this mixture, this mess that we have in God of War Ragnarok. I think it's really interesting, because it shows that there is clearly a story they wanted to tell, and people above them, higher up writers and higher up people on the game, said, no, we can't really do that. What that did was mean that the story had to be changed to accommodate the factor that, no, we can't kill Kratos.
No, he said that didn't feel right for Kratos. And the story, so they changed it. There's nothing about it there's nothing about that. Sorry, I'm slowly losing my mind.
Still includes the storyline that they wanted to tell with Atreus, which was one of the main driving forces of the game. And that leaves us with this disparity, with this lopsided nature, and with this game that just feels really off and not like the story they absolutely wanted to tell at all. But it's still only 30% of the overall game, and so for the majority of the game, we're playing as Kratos, a character who feels a bit lost in this new story. His arc in 2018 concluded wonderfully, but then what do you do with that character now? He feels stationary, he's reactive more than proactive. The opposite...
No, again, like I said before, in the ending of Ragnarok, is something very powerful for Kratos, because throughout this game and throughout the last game and this game, he never thought he could, be worshipped again, and he sees a prophecy where he is.
Opposite of what a protagonist should be, and yet we're playing as him for a majority of the game. At points, he's retreading his original arc and has the most sections of filler just for an excuse at gameplay. One section in particular is the...
Well, yeah, he's turning back into his old self because Atreus is gone and he doesn't know what to do.
Search for the Norns. The game has you go to 2 empty caves before you find them, and then you have a conversation that...
Well, yeah, the Norns, they say in the game the Norns don't want to be found. So they lead you astray a couple times. And then you eventually find them.
Really does nothing other than to tell Kratos, Heimdall might kill Atreus, and for someone who doesn't...
You missed the entire point, just like Kratos did. No, Kratos didn't miss the point. He understood the point, but he still wouldn't let Heimdall kill Atreus. The point is that what? Sorry, I need to calm down. The point is that Ragnarok is going to happen. And for Ragnarok to happen, you kill Heimdall, right? But Kratos can't let Heimdall kill Atreus. So Ragnarok ends up happening.
Doesn't believe in prophecy, he sure as hell has to for the plot to go anywhere at this point, and to give this character something to actually do besides sitting around and waiting for the actual main character to show up again. I know, how about we have him go with Brock to make a new spear? He could fight loads of enemies and get to the top of a mountain. That would be a good hour or so, I reckon.
No, they get the spear to kill Heimdall. That's just not some random whim.
Then we could shoehorn in a weird plot about Brock having died before that's in the game for some reason. Kratos is going on this journey of learning not to regress into his old ways, but he's doing it with characters that he doesn't yet have a deep connection to.
He has a deep connection with Freya. Freya saved Kratos' son. And we not have a talking connection with with Tyr. Sorry, I forgot the name for a second. But we know a lot about him, and we know his reaction to certain things beforehand.
Freya, Mimir, and Brock. You might say he does have a connection to those characters. And I would say...
Yeah, he very much likes Brock. He says in the game, he speaks plain.
Fuck you. No, he doesn't. Okay, no, I didn't mean to lash out again. I'm going to therapy. I'm really trying here. For the both of us, I promise I can make this work. Just give me one more chance, please. He has a connection to those characters, for sure, but they aren't friends. There's maybe a mutual respect, but not the bond he has with Atreus or had with Faye. It's not even close.
And what's wrong with that? He doesn't need to be particularly close to these characters, but he does see them as his friends, but what's wrong with them being kind of estranged?
And we needed a whole game for his bond with Atreus to bear any fruit. Having him go on one mission with Freya and have entire outlooks changed is ludicrous.
Wait, I'm remembering. Didn't Brock die, and Kratos had to leave the situation in order not to just go out and kill gods again, because he's angry. And it ends up being about revenge again, because he's upset that Brock died.
Ludicrous, but that's for later. A lot of Kratos' arc feels meandering and like an afterthought. The game they wanted to do is the one with Atreus as the lead, but they knew sidelining Kratos would be frowned upon, so they made his story 70% of the game, and this is how the pacing begins to feel skewed. Atreus is rushing through his arc while Kratos is taking too long. We end up with a lopsided narrative that doesn't ever seem to land on a purpose because the foundation it was built upon, the relationship between Kratos and Atreus, is never truly present, nor do we have a true middle entry in which Kratos can grow an attachment to other supporting characters. We have to work with the pieces we've got, and they don't seem to join together all too well. This is why I think the first 2 hours and last 2 hours probably work as well as they do. They are the parts that are using 2018 as a foundation, providing already ample depth and building from it in a meaningful way. The middle is just Kratos and Atreus tapping in and tapping out as we explore their disconnected arc sat at a...
No, it's very connected. Atreus or Kratos does a thing, then the other character reacts. Because they're not there. They take the characters away from each other to explore how they would react if they weren't together. And they learn that even when they're not with each other, they should still try and listen for the voice in their head and try and remember what they would tell us when doing a particular action.
At a surface level to get them to the place they need to be for the ending to make sense, which it does, but the journey to get there is a winding, muddy path that you accidentally took thinking it was the hike trail, but it wasn't, and you didn't realize until the sun was setting and you were lost. I didn't do that. I remember being 25 hours into the game and not really knowing what the point was yet, where the thing was even going. In 2018, it's established pretty early on. We know the goal, to the top of the highest peak to spread some and we know the focus is the relationship between a father and a son and their own introspection. Ragnarok, even 25 hours in, still feels like a collection of things happening. I wasn't sure...
No, the point is to avoid Ragnarok. Kratos wants to avoid it.
Or what the game was trying to say to me. I wasn't sure the message to convey. There were so many moving parts that had nothing to do with each other. So many different places we were exploring, so many more focuses, and with that split of our main characters having two entirely different stories happening concurrently, the whole thing...
Again, qualify this!
...felt like it was never really moving.
Why are they... Well, he did explain that. Okay. Well, he explained it.
Direction and...
Alright.
Until Kratos and Atreus
I'm lashing out. I'm getting angry.
Together again.
Not thinking.
And even then, it just amounted to, we're going with the flow, because when Atreus was with Kratos, he
No, they commit to a decision. If that decision succeeds or fails, they have a plan for that. like example, they oh, what's a good example? Oh. My favorite bit. This one. When they're in the meeting and they're planning the war on Ragnarok, right? Then they divvy up who go to each realm and try to recruit an army, right? So, and Kratos and Atreus go to get Surtur.
Back into being reactive to things happening around him. The only time we get a proactive protagonist is when Atreus goes off to action.
That's not true! Again, Kratos decides for them to go to Elfheim. Kratos in order for Atreus to even go look for Tyr in Svartalfheim. I'm very good at pronouncing Norse names, can't you tell? In order for them to even go there, Kratos had to give the okay.
Actually actively do things that push the plot forward. With Kratos, events pass by him and he reacts. Character moments just seem to happen, and even his own arc isn't something...
No! He's showing the visual of Atreus and Odin talking to each other right after Kratos just got the spear. This is Odin saying, hey, maybe we don't have to fight. I got your son. If anything, maybe we don't have to fight. But if we do fight, I got your son. If anything happened to me, well, your son is gonna die. And do you even know what it means to be a god? And Kratos said, like, well, you're gonna meet the god I once was. I'm gonna kill you. I don't believe a goddamn thing you're saying.
Thing he actively seems to participate in. None of it is down to his own actions. It's all because of extrinsic factors which...
Kratos decides to go visit the Norns against Freya's wishes.
Is the issue with telling a story where the entire premise is prophecy, especially in a video game.
War Thunder, the military online action game, has received this year's first major update. The branch of unique...
Writing this is not going to be easy, and I'm going to need you to follow me closely here, because the way prophecy is handled in Ragnarok is just... Look, I don't know anymore. I want to do my best to not make this a lore issue. I feel like that's a cheap way of criticizing a thing. I want to criticize the quality of execution, not the consistency of a fictional world's rules. Don't get me wrong, that's important. I should know, but in my old age, I want to focus on the actual issues of writing. But with a topic like this, it really can't be helped. We're gonna have to. First of all, Ragnarok establishes its idea of prophecy by outright saying all the lore we learned in 2018, all those stories told by Mimir and little tidbits explained by Atreus, yeah, that's all fake. That's all wrong. That was dumb misinformation spread on Reddit by the giants before they went and hid in fucking marbles and left fake corpses in Jotunheim to trick Odin. Who the fuck wrote this? And so that's my first problem.
What? Tell me what's wrong with it.
The world building of 2018 is entirely inconsequential to Ragnarok. To get their story to work, they actively had to say that 2018's world building was not real. But okay, look.
No, just what they thought they knew in 2018, what turned out to be wrong in God of War Ragnarok. And that isn't telling the other game it's wrong. They just didn't know all the information. They didn't know what they were looking at.
Let's look past that. Maybe they did it for a good reason. Maybe they actually tell a really good story that justifies them rewriting every piece of lore that 2018 established.
They just didn't have all the information.
So the reason they did this is so they can set up very specific events which Kratos and Atreus have to take part in as the game progresses. We learn very early on that very specific things will happen. They basically lay out the story beats for us and say, yeah, so Skoll and Hati will catch the sun and moon, Asgard will fall, we also see in Ironwood the full mural from the end of 2018 showing us that Atreus will meet Odin, Kratos will die, Angrboda and Atreus will make Jormungandr, etc, etc. This is so that they can establish events, have those events play out in-game, and then have prophecy gain weight as a thing that exists. Prophecy keeps happening the way it was prophesied to happen, to build tension for Kratos.
No, there are some prophecies that don't happen because Kratos and Atreus changed their nature.
His impending death. The thing is, 2018 already did that. The mural we find at the end of the game gives weight to prophecy. Faye had predicted everything that would happen the way that it happened long before it happened. That gives prophecy weight. And then we see a half-destroyed panel showing the death of Kratos, impact from the weight that was just established. In 2018, it felt like they wrote a story and then had the mural reflect that story with some ominous foreshadowing for good measure. In Ragnarok, it feels like they made the murals and then they tried desperately to mold the story around those preset prophecy beats. For example, Atreus, who desperately wants to defy fate, sees that he's going to meet with Odin and freaks out. Now what does he do? A, tell his father and try to defy it. B, forget about it and simply never go to Odin, meaning the prophecy can't happen. Or the really dumb and stupid option C, go to Odin anyway in the hopes of averting a prophecy where he meets with Odin. It's C.
Well, anyway, I'll react to more later.